Hi, good evening. Welcome to my channel. I'm Stephen, former very heavy drinker who got into a lot of issues, medical issues really, with too much alcohol over a long period of time. Um, and I'm just going to go through basically how it started. Um, Briefly, I started drinking when I was quite young. It got worse and worse and worse, more and more, higher tolerance, all that sort of thing. I'm going to fast forward it to 2006 when I stopped drinking for 8 years. And then I was sober for 8 years, 2006 to 2014. I'd always been a heavy drinker. I was probably an alcoholic when I was a child, actually, because my mother found a load of empty cans in a cupboard in my bedroom when I was about 15. Even she said, "Have you got a drink problem?" I obviously poo-pooed it, but, life goes on. So let's go forward to 2014. I'd been off for 8 years, and I relapsed then for a couple of reasons, and I drank steadily till 2019. This is what the video is about, really, and to give people hope, because a lot of people give up when they get a diagnosis like I had. So 2019, by that time I was feeling very fragile. I'd lost a lot of weight. I had this terrible fluid buildup in my stomach, and an increasing umbilical hernia because of this fluid. The fluid is actually called the ascites fluid, which is a protein the liver can't deal with. So somebody I know said, "Look, you must get to hospital. If you don't go, I'm going to drag you there," sort of thing. So the next day I felt terrible again. Actually had a couple of cans in the morning to give me the bottle to go to hospital. And I rang 999 because I could hardly walk. I'd been sleeping in a bed that hadn't been changed for ages, and my flat was just in a terrible state. Hadn't really looked after myself, hadn't been eating, and I was just really at the bottom, as far as you could get, really down. Probably close to death, and I actually realised at the time. So I put a few things in the bag. The ambulance turned up pretty quick, obviously. Put 3 9s in the phone, and they were there within 5 minutes. And I heard the paramedic say to his colleague, "This guy is ill, let's get him there." So I got taken to the RVI, which is a major hospital in Newcastle, and I went through all the tests and triage and all that, and they said, "You're going to stay in." And I was panicked a bit then, because I'd been in hospital quite a lot because of work. I used to do work, but never as a patient for very long. So I was feeling awful then, obviously, and you think your life's finished, really. I went to the hospital, and they put me in a ward about 9 o'clock at night. So late then, I still felt terrible. And they gave me this drip. I don't know what it was, and they took some tests, blood tests. I don't know whether the drip was to withdrawal or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, the next day, about 4 o'clock, this doctor came in, and he put this. He said, "I'm going to drain this fluid off with this needle." The needle was about 12 inches long. He said, "We're going to put it into the side of your abdomen, and we're going to drain off this excess fluid. It's going to take about 6 hours." I thought, "God, that's a long time." So he drained it off. Well, he didn't. He just started off, and the nurse kept an eye on it, and he kept emptying this bag thing because it was full of fluid. So I got rid of all this fluid. It was a massive amount of fluid, 26 litres. So a litre weighs a kilogram. Imagine 26 litres of extra weight I've been carrying around. Bear in mind, I've lost all this muscle because of my drinking and not eating properly. So I'm lying in bed. I thought the next day I felt a little bit better because I thought, well, I'm in hospital now. I'm safe. Because for months I'd been trying to get help and I couldn't get any help. I hadn't really pushed it, to be fair. So I'm in hospital thinking, everything's fine and I'll be all right now. And I had a couple of visitors, and they all said, "Oh God, you look a little bit better than you did a week ago, So I've been asking people in the pub, "Do I look rough? Do I look ill?" And most of the lads had said, "You look absolutely terrible." I hadn't seen my daughter for a while. She was in Manchester, and my parents hadn't seen them for a little while. So I felt a little bit better, as I say. Anyway, I was in quite a good mood that night. And I was chatting to the other people in the ward, probably a bit too loudly actually, and this doctor came in and just pulled the curtain round, and she said, "You've got cirrhosis. You're extremely and seriously ill." That's just like that, and I thought, Christ, that was it. There was no build up to it or anything. She said, "I'll leave you to it and be assessed tomorrow again." This is about 2 or 3 days in. I thought, there's no sort of announcement of who she was, other than she was a doctor. Well, she said, "I'm one of the doctors, does it?" And then you've got cirrhosis. So I had this drip still going in, and they were still taking this fluid off. Now, the ascites fluid can be very damaging to the kidneys, but I also had something which I didn't know about at the time, which is spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, where the fluid becomes infected, which is extremely dangerous. And more than 50% of people hospitalised with ascites and spontaneous bacterial peritonitis will die. I didn't know that at the time. So I'm getting all these tests done. When I had the diagnosis, I was so frightened. I thought, my God, what am I going to do? Who should I tell first? So I rang my father, my mother was obviously there, and told her. I was so worried about telling my daughter, who was 25 at the time, but still a shock, isn't it? So I told her, and she was in tears and all that sort of thing. Emotionally, I was all over the place. It was horrendous. So I was seen by doctors over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then subsequently released into the care of a liver specialist hospital, the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle. So I couldn't ask myself. So I got taken by patient transport, my parents' address, so I could be at least looked after to some degree. At least somebody was there. There was no thought of drinking or anything like that. I was just so ill. So I know what's going on. Let's see what happens. I got in that time. I was waiting to go back to the Freeman. This letter came through from a chap called Christian Dipper, who was head of acute medicine, and he gave a breakdown of what I'd had, and had apparently gross ascites and this SBP, spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, alcohol-related liver disease, and all these other things. And I thought, well, that's the end. And he said, at the bottom it said decompensated liver cirrhosis. I thought, well, what's that about? So I Googled it, and apparently it only gives you, if you have that, you've got about 2 years to live, basically. So I thought, well, what's the opposite? Decompensated, and that's compensated. So compensated liver cirrhosis, a lot of people have it, and that means you've got no symptoms, no ascites, no SBP, no major problems. So a lot of people who haven't been tested, who drink regularly, will have compensated liver cirrhosis because there's no symptoms. It's like a silent killer, really, to be honest with you. So I went back to the liver hospital because this fluid was building up, obviously, and I had another drain of this fluid, about another 20 litres. At the time, the doctor said, you're low on sodium, which is obviously a salt, isn't it? But we're still going to drain you because we've got to. It's dangerous if we don't. So in the hospital that night, I felt really groggy. I started to talk to one of the nurses, and I couldn't speak properly. And later on, I woke up, and apparently I had a massive seizure in hospital. So they rushed me, well, they did rush me actually, to intensive care. And I'm saying, oh, I don't need to go there, I don't need to go there. But sure enough, I was in there. 4 o'clock in the morning, this surgeon and his pal turned up, getting kitted up. They must have been in bed, I suppose. So sort of, like emergency surgeons. So he said, I'm going to put a needle down, just down here actually, and I'm going to try and get the sodium up. So I was in intensive care for 2 or 3 days. That's a frightening place as well. It's ambient light. You don't know what time it is. You don't know what's going on. All you can hear is this beeping and buzzing all the time. And the bed sort of slightly rocks a bit to keep your blood flow going. Sorry. Oh, that's terrifying. So eventually the next day I managed to get my mobile phone charged, and told my daughter that I was in intensive care. And that was about in November 2019. No, 2018. Forgive me about the dates, but 5 years ago roughly. So anyway, we had all this carry on going on, intensive care. So I was kept in that hospital for another 2 weeks. I was released with another appointment to go back in a month's time. In that next month, I felt even worse. The fluid was still building up, and I kept Googling, which you shouldn't do. Can you go from decompensated, which I was, to compensated? And they said it's usually not possible. So I kept researching it, researching it. And I saw this American article that said, in rare cases, it can go from decompensation to compensation and the liver can recover. Now, basically, my family thought I was going to die, and I did as well. That's how bad I got at the time. So I got over another 2 or 3 drains, but I still had this huge hernia, which is where it's quite a weak part of your stomach, the umbilical area. The fluid goes in there and it became a big sac, like the size of a tennis ball. So I kept getting drains and drains and drains. And then it suggested some other procedure in the liver, which still didn't take it down. And apparently 1 in 100 doesn't take it down. I was the 1 in 100 where it didn't take the fluid off. So I'm thinking, this is the end, basically. I just resigned myself to dying. And all this was going on during COVID as well, because imagine what the hospitals were like. I had this very good consultant who I owe my life to, really. This young lady who kept pursuing things and there was talk of liver transplantation, all sorts, but she said, you're not weak, you're not strong enough, physiologically strong enough to take that. We'll try something else. And they did wonders, really, to be fair. So as time went on, I was still getting drained and getting drained and drained. Stayed at my parents' house, and then one day I looked at this umbilical hernia. It was getting worse, and it had a little tear in it, and it started to bleed. And it was Tuesday afternoon in the summer, and at the time, the district nurse was coming to just do a check, a kidney function blood test or something, and this hernia started bleeding, kept bleeding. So again, 999, and the ambulance crew came and eventually got me on to a stretcher. It was difficult to get the stretcher in the house, actually, but anyway, my eventually got to the hospital. They put a blast bandage on me, which is used for explosive injuries, and I was still coughing and the blood was still spurting out my stomach, even with the blast bandage on. So we put another one, and the driver basically put blue lights on, sirens, all through COVID, and the other paramedic who was with me in the back radioed through and asked for a crash team and a surgical team to go on standby. So when we got there, we're straight into resus. Now, I'd been at resus with my previous job, but not as a patient. So I got taken to resus, and I would say at least 10 staff there. Nobody, no patients, just me. So I'm thinking, well, I've gone now, really, haven't I? I'm finished. That's the end of me. Still bleeding from this hernia. Now the surgeon still had his surgical kit ready, and he basically said to me, if this doesn't work, then there's nothing more we can do, because I was just going to bleed to death. His sighted fluid had blood in it, you see. And when you get that, you're going to get infected, then you pass away. So that was obviously horrendous again. Fortunately, that managed to hold. The stitch was fine, and it worked, you know. From then, I was kept in for another few weeks in that hospital, and then transferred to another hospital for a bit of respite care. Came out again. So I'd had the hernia repaired and other things done, and then I was still feeling terrible. I was still going for these drains and all this sort of thing. And then some bright young doctors said, well, come in, we'll do another procedure on you. But all this time, I was still diagnosed with decompensated liver cirrhosis. But if you Google it, lifespan, life expectancy is 2 years. So as time went on, I thought, well, I'm going to crack this, try and crack it. And my doctor told me, the consultant, try and get some exercise. But I couldn't do any exercise. I was in a wheelchair most of the time. But try and eat a clean diet. Which I'd eat a clean diet, no sodium, obviously salt, very few fats. So I started eating things like spinach, chicken, all the time, every day. And I started to get a little bit better with that. So as time went on, around about 2021, I was seeing the consultant every 4 weeks at the liver hospital. And she said, oh, you seem to be getting a little bit better. And my liver function was getting better every time I visited. And so I was just sticking to this diet: water, chicken, spinach. It was a terrible diet, but it saved my life. So you can get yourself back to health, really. Anyway, she said, well, there's no symptoms of this liver issue now. And I said, well, does that mean I'm compensated? Does that mean there's no symptoms? She said, well, no, there's not. And I said, that's very unusual, isn't it? Because I had done a bit of research, but I said this American article said it is possible sometimes. He said, yes, it is unusual. However, you've managed to do it. And I said, why? How have I managed to do this? And he said, because you've done exactly what I've told you to do. So there was obviously a lot more hope then. As time went on, my liver functions improved. And it's normal now. I've got no symptoms. I'm pretty much full health now. So I asked her last time I saw her, about 6 months ago, what's the score with lifespan? So you can enjoy a normal life expectancy as long as you don't touch alcohol. So if they take away the cause, then you've got a chance. So I've got a second chance here. And I urge anybody who's got the same sort of thing, follow the doctor's rules to the letter. I'm on no medication, I eat a clean diet, and I now exercise regularly. And I'm very positive about it. I've always been positive. You've got to keep a positive attitude. So you can go from death's door, really, to being back to normal if you follow what they say and don't touch the alcohol. But I asked one of the professors in the hospital, how many people who've been through what I've been through will drink again? And he said, quite a high number. And he said, you're one of the only ones I know who've actually stayed off for a long period. So that's the message. You can recover, but you must do what you're told. You must be very disciplined, extremely disciplined with your diet. You have the odd treat now and again, but you can't go mad with it because your liver it can regenerate, but it will take time. And you get normal liver function back. You keep on with the exercise, keep on with the fluids, don't touch the alcohol. Low sodium diet. That's another. Don't eat things out of tins, basically. Eat things that grow naturally, have fish and have some meat, not too much red meat. Mainly vegetables and fruit, which is common sense when you think about it, isn't it? Parents try and give the kids fruit and veg, don't they? They won't eat it, they'll go and get a bag of chips. So there is hope out there, and I know people will Google this liver issue and they'll Google whether you can go back from decompensated to compensated and all this sort of thing. If you Google it right now, you'll find that it'll say it's very, very rare. But I've done it. There's a reason why you can't do it as well. With the right attitude and push yourself all the time. That's what I'm doing all the time. That's what I did. But now I can relax a little bit because everything's back to normal, really, as far as the doctors are concerned. So I just have a check every 6 months now. And I'm on no medication whatsoever. So I hope this helps people. And if you have any questions, leave me a note in the comments box and subscribe to the channel because there's a lot more information coming out. Never give up is my message because a lot of people give up. And your brain controls your body in a lot of cases. And I'm sure that a lot of people give in. Fortunately, I didn't give in. I had a lot to live for, still got a lot to live for. And I'm a success story for the NHS, thank God. So keep at it, please. And obviously see your doctor if you've got any medical issues first. I'm not a medic, but I know how it feels to be an alcoholic because I am one. And I can give you advice on how it feels and maybe what I did to try and combat the issues. And I'll leave you all with that. And I'll speak to you all soon.